Hello Zwift Racing fans watching around the world. I am Jake Sanderson, aka Snowman Cycling. Welcome back to another race recap video. And this week I am super excited because we have finally surpassed my target of 1,000 subscribers, which is great news for me, great news for you because you don't have to hear me talk about it ever again. And to celebrate, I've decided to share with you probably the hardest race I have ever done. An absolutely brutal, savage, and what felt like never-ending 54-kilometer race around Eastern 8 in Watopia for a ZRL, Zwift Racing League race about a year ago. And this one was the Queen stage, the final stage, the hardest stage, the longest stage of that season's ZRL. And it lived up to its reputation because it was absolutely brutal. I did a normalized power of 4.1 watts per kilo for 1 hour, 16 minutes. And it's just chocked full of these segments and efforts that are absolutely attritional and really sap the legs, especially against such a big field of 75 B riders, chocked full of killers. And those eagle-eyed amongst you will have noticed that, of course, this is not me on the screen. This is my teammate Patrik Karlström, also in the snow team. And this one's extremely special because we're going to look at it from his perspective. My recording didn't work, so this is a great chance for us to look at racing against me from my teammate's perspective. So you'll see me in the race, you'll see me at the finish, you'll see me in all the big moments, but we'll be looking at how Patrik does and how he races as well. And Patrik is an extremely talented racer. He's in A now and he's always at the pointy end of these races, so you will get a bird's eye view of the best moments. And that starts right now with the first segment, as already on the lead-in before we've even commenced the lap, we hit the Fuego flat segment, 500 meters of all-out sprint pain. And remember, there's fastest through the segment and first across the line points available on offer here because it's Zwift Racing League. So we have to attack all of these segments. And that first one goes pretty well for our six-man team. We've got 3 riders in the top 5 for first across the line. Dazza got second, Patrik, as you just saw, got 4th, and I got 5th. Patrik also picked up 2nd, I picked up 4th, and Dazza picked up 6th in the fastest through the segment. So those are all super valuable points, really important to us as a team to make sure that we consolidate our place at the top of this league. And for context, this was the final week, week 8 of the series, and our team was already assured first place in the league as long as we all finished the race. So we wanted to just go out and attack that first segment really hard to make sure we picked up a bunch of points and put that title race to rest, ensure we won and got promoted into B1 for the following season. And that also meant that as the captain of the team, I gave everybody carte blanche to do what they wanted for this race. Usually there's quite a detailed plan where I give people roles, tell them to work on certain segments or the overall, to make sure that we have enough coverage as a team to get points across the board. If everybody goes for one segment and then nobody goes for anything else, you're kind of leaving yourself open to being attacked by the other teams there. But for this one, because it's the 8th and final one and we're already winning it, I've said to everybody, you can go off and do whatever you like. If you want to sit in and try and survive for the finish, you can do that. If you want to attack the segments, every segment as hard as you can, you can do that too. And as we'll see later on, some people choose different options to others. And that means that we've now got a little bit of recovery, a little bit of rest, and a little bit of respite before we hit the next segment, which is the Titans Grove KOM, the long way up. So that's probably going to be a 4 or 5 minute effort, long enough that it's going to hurt the legs, sting the lungs. And as we find ourselves halfway up this climb, I think Patrik is thinking the same thing I'm thinking, which is that there might be some points on offer to steal here if we time it this correctly. But unfortunately for me, I don't time it as well as Patrik. I come to the front a little bit too early, start pacing a little bit too fast, too soon. But Patrik comes from further back in the pack and he does really well to draft, and he puts on the afterburners here. You can see those fire socks glowing as he just ramps up through the group and he comes past, and there I am just alongside him on the orange Tron. So we make a concerted effort to push across the line together, and we do manage to pick up some points there, with Patrik getting 5th and me getting 6th on the first across the line, and me getting 4th and Patrik getting 8th on the fastest through the segment. So some super valuable points there, really worth the effort, and we've got quite a long time left of recovery until the next segment. So it's worth doing it with these race efforts when you've got the time to recover. It's worth going all in to try and pick up the points. So we're really pleased about that one, and now you know the drill, guys. It's just going to be about getting as much recovery and rest as we can before the next one. And we're definitely going to need it because the next one is the Fuego Flats segment, the long way around, the 8 kilometer version of that segment. I don't think I've ever done that in a race before as a fastest through or a first across the line segment. So we really did not know what to expect from this one or how it was going to go. And of course, because this is such a long one, it's likely to take about 10 minutes total time before we get to the end. So it definitely doesn't make any sense surging, going off the front, trying any long attacks with such a big group bearing down on you behind and everybody wanting those points. It'd be really silly to try and go solo really early. Instead, you should do what Patrik does here. Make sure you sit in the wheels, surf the draft, do everything you can to get yourself into a good position, and then when you get closer towards the end of this segment, move your way up the group like this, like Patrik does, using those big orange numbers as he gets out the saddle and he's just surfing the wheels, making sure when those gaps open up, he's able to come through them and he's at the front of the group. And when we hit the sprint finish in a couple of seconds, he's going to be in exactly the right place where he needs to be to pick up those points. So here he comes straight through the pack and he's primed, ready to go to pick up all those FAL and FTS points. So fantastic effort from Patrik there. He comes through and he takes first across the line on the FAL segment. Really, really impressive. And he manages to pick up top 10 FTS points as well. And teammate Dazza getting second first across the line as well, alongside Dazza getting fourth fastest through the segment and Patrik ninth. So really, really impressive stuff from those guys there, especially when we're this deep into such a brutal race and there's still so much more left to come. And considering that I did the cowardly sprinter-like thing of hiding in the group draft there, I tried to do as little work as possible to just stick on the wheels. I knew I didn't really have the legs to do that segment and what's coming up next. Being such a long one, it really doesn't play to my strengths. But that's why it pays to have such great teammates like Dazza and Patrik there, ready to roll and take those points on offer. Which means now we get a few K of recovery before we hit the next difficulty, which happens to be the Titans Grove KOM short. This one is much more up my street. And the question at this point is going to be, who's still got the legs left after this many miles and attritional efforts? And is anybody going to be able to split this group any further and get a smaller reduced group as we head to the finish? Because as you've seen, this is a massive group still. It's just really difficult for any splits or any riders to get away with so many strong riders in that peloton. But maybe that will change as we hit the Titans Grove KOM reverse. And you'll see here exactly how much of a pure racer Patrik is. He simply cannot help himself from having a go at every segment. That's just the sort of rider he is. He's that strong that it works 9 times out of 10 for him. He's able to do this in these races and he's able to just give these repeated efforts again and again. I find it takes a lot out of me. He gets much better results on these segments than I do, but it's great being able to analyse the races from somebody else's perspective. I really enjoy it, and I'm thinking of adding a new video feature each week where I analyse not one of my own races, but one of your races, one of my subscriber races, and we have a look at what the subscriber did well, what they could improve on next time, and analyse how their race went. So it means you don't just have to look at me and my beautiful face every week. Instead, we can have a look at the wider world of Zwift racing and how we can help those riders around us get better results in their races, like I do with my snow races in the snow race team. So let me know in the comments down below, do you think that's a good idea? Would you like to see me add that feature into the channel so you can get to see more great attacks like this one as Patrik powers his way to the front of the group and storms his way up this Titans Grove epic KOM reverse, making sure that he snags and steals some valuable points along the way, coming around the Portuguese rider at the very top there to make sure he comes across the line in 3rd place. Really, really strong effort, especially after such a brutal race. Remember, we're 41 kilometers in, an hour into this race, and Patrik has attacked every single segment like his life depends on it. And as we look behind, our teammate Dazza manages to pick up some really valuable points as well there in 6th place. And it's a shame that we couldn't see this one from my perspective because I really messed it up. I made an effort in the end towards the top of the climb thinking there was a chance. And in the end, I only got 12th, fastest through the segment and across the line. So I used a load of energy that I did not need to use. I should have committed all in, or I should have done as little work as possible. Doing that middle ground doesn't help me and it doesn't help the team. But that is what it is. Sometimes these things happen in Zwift races. You can't judge yourself too harshly, especially in the moment and especially when you've been under this much strain and this much duress for this long. I can't really convey in one of these recap videos how brutal this race was. This was easily the hardest race I've ever done, as evidenced by my normalized power at the end. Like I mentioned at the start, it was 4.1 watts per kilo normalized power for 1 hour 16 minutes. But I'm buoyed by the fact that those riders around me must be feeling exactly the same. There's no way I am on my own in this situation. And as I talk to my teammates on the radio, video, it becomes clear that they are just as cooked as I am. And what a way it would be to end this season where we've won the league if we could take another win on the road and get the stage win in the Queen stage itself, the hardest stage of the season. But to do that, we're going to have to play our cards to perfection, to do everything right, because in such a big group, there is no room for error. Everybody wants that win, that podium. And that means on the race radio, we're trying to hash out a plan of what our best chance of attack is going to be to get the win. And those of you that are long-time followers of the channel will know that Patrik and Dazza are our designated team sprinters. They have the best 15-second sprint in the team by far, which means that we commit to them on the sprint. But there's no point having 3 protected riders who are going for the sprint, because you can't have all 3 of you win it. You have 2, and then if one of you doesn't get it, maybe the other one does. But to use our numbers effectively, we're going to need to do something else, and that's where I come into play. Because if you put all of your eggs into the sprint basket, what happens if the breakaway stays away? Somebody goes early, 2k out, 1k out, and they hold that gap. You're sitting in, everybody in your team is waiting for the sprint. What happens if you never catch? So you can't commit just to that. You need to put a couple of people in the sprint. Then you need to have one rider who's going to be sat near the front of the group, following the attacks, making a break for it from a long way out. And that way you're maximising your chances of getting a good result on the road. And basically you need a fall guy to step in and take the heat for you. Sometimes they might get lucky, but most of the time they're going to get swept up by the group. And that sounds like a job for me. And so we're going to watch this finishing sequence in real time. And what you can't see at this point is I have just launched my attack off the front of the group, and we'll use the red markers here to indicate my position. And in truth, when I launched this attack, I was responding to a couple of other wheels, then they stalled and I just went for it. And I really did not expect to even get a gap of this much, let alone be able to hold it for this long. And I thought for sure, by the time we hit the start of this Fuego sprint, I'm going to be sucked up by this group. But that's what happens. Sometimes the group looks at each other. Everybody's saving their own energy for the sprint finish. So if you are bold and you gamble, you can take advantage. And even if it doesn't work and you've got the sprinters behind, it's a great move nonetheless. But here, as we're about 300 meters from the finish, I find myself still somehow 20 meters out front, alone on the front of the group. And at this point, I'm going to be extremely disappointed if I let this one slip through my fingers, seeing as it's so close. And Patrik and Dazza ramp it up behind, as the expert sprinters that they are, coming powering through the group. And Patrik pips all the other riders as I manage to cling on for the first place finish for a 1-2 win.
Yes! Nice, Jake.
Yes, Jake.
Sure.
Yes.
First and second. Oh, nice, Dazza.
Oh,
Fifth.
did you record that?
I did.
Yes.
Hopefully.
I didn't. Oh, me, man. Oh, yeah.
Excellent. That was awesome.
You can just hear from the audio how much that one means to me and the team, and how exhausted we were after the fact. So I hope you enjoyed that one, guys. A look into, without doubt, my hardest and most difficult race I'd ever completed up until that point. Hope to catch you on the next one. Remember to like, comment, most importantly subscribe, and as always, race fast, ride hard, and remember that you are appreciated.